Let's talk about the new Coolidge Classroom program. What inspired you to create this program, and what do you hope students will get from it?
Yeah. So my background is in film, but also in the classroom. I taught film and English for 6 years at Lexington High School before I came to the Coolidge, and I loved being in the classroom. I could talk to students about film and literature all day, but the position at the Coolidge, which was newly created as part of the theater's expansion, felt like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take what I was trying to offer students in the classroom and share it with even more students and have an even greater impact. And also an opportunity to give students like my own and other teachers like me access to the theater's resources and the ability to see a film the way that it's meant to be seen, right, on the big screen, in one sitting instead of superimposed on the whiteboard with the previous class's dry erase marker smeared over the characters' faces. But most importantly, film is such a powerful engine for discussion and dialogue. So I'm really excited to be able to use film as a way for students to engage in conversation with each other, to learn not just about film, but about other folks in their community.
Awesome. And it seems like such an exciting thing for a student to, oh my gosh, we're going to go see a movie at a theater. That's going to be our class trip. That's going to be our excursion. Why do you think that excites students so much? And what do you hope they will initially think when they get to the theater?
There's something about leaving the school that gives you permission to learn on your own terms. So even if you're doing the same thing that you do in the classroom, sitting in a circle, sharing out your observations and inferences, the fact that you can do it in a space that feels like it's designed for you. Yesterday, the students were talking about, like, it's nice, the chairs were comfortable. I'm not distracted by that. I'm eating popcorn, right? That they're able to engage or give themselves permission to engage in a way that you don't necessarily get to do at school with as many interruptions and stressors as are on the minds of young people as they're moving through their school day, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. It can definitely be distracting when you're in the same place every single day,
yeah.
getting exposed to that new environment, you know? And what kind of activities will the students be doing in this program? They come into the theater. What's the day look like?
Sure. It's a 3-hour program, and each one includes an introduction to the film, lunch provided by the theater, the screening itself, popcorn, of course, and a discussion facilitated by yours truly. And supplemental resources are also shared with teachers and students in advance that they can take back to their classroom with them if they want to continue the discussion there.
Awesome. And yeah, you just talked a little bit about giving students and teachers resources. Is there a certain algorithm that you use to pick out all of these films in terms of what you think the students will be interested in, what they will absorb in terms of that with their regular school curriculum?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to work with an advisory committee of teachers from 5 different districts and 4 different disciplines, because there's a lot of cross-referencing that needs to happen in order to understand and address the needs of students from different districts, disciplines, ages, you name it, right? So we kind of pooled our ideas and our curriculum to say what are shared themes, looking in particular for films that are intersectional and interdisciplinary, so that students could talk about, let's say, computer science and anti-bias education in a film like Coded Bias, which we're going to be screening in in the spring. What's another example? Something like Persepolis, the adaptation of Marjane Satrapi's graphic novel, is both, it's in French and Farsi, so it dovetails with world language, but also with history and obviously literature, since it's an adaptation of a graphic novel. So that was what we were trying to do, and also to be able to create something that represents the depth and breadth of students' own experiences, and includes an entry point for students of all different backgrounds and identities.
Awesome. And now that I think of it, which schools are you guys participating with?
Anyone is welcome to sign up. Go to Coolidge Classroom. Right now, we've just finished a couple of pilot programs. So this program is brand new. This is our first year. Our first students arrived on foot from Brookline High School, and we just bussed some students in from Newton. But we've got folks coming from Boston Public Schools, from as far as Weymouth, and so. We are also committed to providing pro bono transportation and meals for students. So that's often the greatest barrier for teachers, honestly, to giving students the kinds of opportunities that they would like them to have, like this program. So hopefully we'll be able to remove some of those barriers to access, to be able to reach students from not just the greater Boston area, but maybe all of Massachusetts and beyond.
Absolutely. Lastly, how would you like to see this program grow in the future? What about like 2, 3, 4 years from now?
Yeah. We have, there's always been education programs at the Coolidge. I like to say that Coolidge education is Coolidge programming, right? Film brings people together to think critically and have engaging conversations, no matter what. But we've always been limited, but in terms of our capacity, both in terms of kind of the physical building and manpower. The expansion that opened in just this past March 2024 really marks our transformation from a funky art house stalwart local cinema to a landmark for cinema education serving the greater Boston area. So I'm really hoping that this program and others like it at our theater and maybe elsewhere continue to expand in collaboration with local community organizations, so that we can serve more students and their families and their teachers.